The Calabasas Leos are a new community college, and today I'm going to try to win it all with them. I have to build them up from scratch as there currently isn't a single player on the roster, and to make the rebuild even harder, I can only go after 2-star recruits or lower until we win a bowl game. Additionally, we'll be starting in the Pac-12 immediately, and I can only jump into up to 2 regular season games a year, so with all of those challenges and restrictions, I have no idea how I'm going to pull this off. All of these guys are like 60 overalls unless they're a JUCO, so I'm going to have a very bad team, and I really need Clint Robinson. He's actually got decent stats for a 2-star recruit, but we got a long way to go in the battle for him. There is good news though, as it is pretty easy to get most of these guys to just commit early on, and by the end of the year, I might not have gotten the best guys out there, but I already have 22 players signed, and now I just have to hope that we have some transfer requests in here. There is only going to be one, but it's going to be a tight end, and that's honestly a little disheartening, but he will be the focal point of this team for the next 5 years, as I signed the 107th best recruiting class in the country because it's only 2 stars. The worst part is most of these guys are JUCOs, and I guess I should go ahead and redshirt people like Clint Robinson, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Even though we're a 57 overall, we're somehow not projected to be the worst team in the country, but I feel like our only chance to win a game will be against an FCS school as a community college, and we lose by 26. All that really matters is recruiting, and this season I found some JUCOs that are actually going to be worth going after. By week 6, it clearly wasn't going well on the field, but I'm getting everybody I wanted besides the 80 overall guard, so I'm pretty happy. It should be no surprise that we didn't even come close to beating any of these teams, and I'm starting to really regret putting us in the Pac-12 because the person that made this mod would have let me put us in any conference. This is truly going to be a challenge because I can only recruit 2 stars until we win a bowl game, and for the first of many times, I have already gotten fired, which is not very good. Each time that happens, I have to restart my coach from level 3, and unfortunately, it also means that nobody is going to transfer in this year. I also don't ever see us even getting a top 100 recruiting class, as it just isn't possible with these players, but I did get some athletes that are JUCO, so I'm excited to see which positions they play best. Probably the best player I got in this class was Scott Brown, who's going to be a 65 overall freshman tight end, and by the time Mark Redmond is done, he's going to fill in very well for us. I also feel like it will be a smart decision to go ahead and start freshman quarterback Clint Robinson, and it's going to allow him to develop, but not well, because I'm going to be redshirting all of our best players, so in the future, we have a chance at actually making a bowl game. I think next season will be our best chance to push for one, so I need to find a lot of good JUCOs in this class, which might just work out if I'm able to land all 5 of these guys. Since I redshirted everybody, our overall only went up to a 59 this year, so I'm just going to sim pretty much every game again, and next season I might jump into one. If we are going to take down a team, it's going to be Missouri State, but we ended up losing by almost 30 the last time we played them, so I'm not even surprised we did again. Clint Robinson's freshman year was atrocious. He only passed for 6 touchdowns and only supported 2 receivers over 100 yards, so obviously for the second season in a row, we went 0-12. All I want to do is make a bowl game next year, but I don't know if it's going to be possible to do in our division, especially since I got fired for the second time. Unfortunately, this caused one of our best tackles to transfer out, but evidently we must have some appeal because there's 2 cornerbacks that want to play for me. So even though we have the 111th class in the country this year, I can't even be upset because I landed a lot of the JUCOs that I wanted, and we have the transfers coming in. Even though I've only gone after 2 stars, a lot of these players are getting up into the 80s now, and that's definitely because of redshirting, but with 88 players on the team, there's definitely a lot of trash that I need to make sure I cut. Although we jumped 18 overalls, I still don't know if it's going to be enough to be able to compete with the rest of the Pac-12. If we could beat Nevada in the opener, that would give me some hope, so I'm going to go ahead and sim it, and of course we're going to lose, but at least it was somewhat close, because that gives me hope we're going to win our first game. You all are finally seeing the home stadium, and it looks like Robinson is a left-handed quarterback who can throw dimes to our big tight end who's breaking tackles, so I think the future of this team, at least over the next couple years, should be in good hands, as the option is working as well. I knew it would probably be smart to jump into this game just to make sure we got our first win, and Calabasas Community College might be the worst team in the Pac-12, but at least we're going to beat Missouri State. The home crowd should be pretty happy with that win, and I'm praying that this turns our season around. We have a long way to go if I want to go after players that aren't 2-star recruits, but we can't take down Stanford, and of course USC will also probably beat us, which they do. So I'm no longer feeling too great, and I know we're the lower overall team, but this is just really disappointing. The Hawaii game is probably our last straw since both of us are 1-4, and against them we are going to lose by double, so at this point I'm ready to get through the entire season. We just aren't as good as I was hoping we'd be, so I am pleasantly surprised we beat Arizona. Everybody on my board was on a visit for that matchup, which actually ended up to quite a few players committing to the school, and I know it stinks that we're still sitting at the bottom of our division in the Pac-12, but technically we could still make a bowl game if we win out, and that is not going to be possible. You know what, I honestly can't even be upset with us finishing at 3-9, because at least it's going to make sure I keep my job, and it also allowed Clint Robinson to take a step forward. It is frustrating that 6 of these starters won't be returning, and the fact that no matter what I do, I'm always going to produce one of the worst recruiting classes in the country, but as long as I redshirt players like Danny Cole and Mark Graham, they could still make a difference. And these training results make me very happy because we have our first 90 overall player. If we're ever going to make a bowl game, it is going to be this year. And since we're up to an 80 overall, it might just be possible. Before we start the season, the last change I'm going to make is giving us the Army playbook, and I'm hoping the option offense can get us 6 wins. In our opener, we're going to actually beat Missouri State, so at least we have that going for us, and there is a reason our opening games are the easy ones. It allows us to build up some momentum in these earlier games before we go into conference play, and against UTEP, I'm going to schedule every one of these players for a visit. All those high overalls are JUCOs, but we need them bad, and due to that, I have to make sure that we don't lose to UTEP. Everybody's watching, and Chris Young is going to break away from 3 different guys at once. He's taking the 60 yards to the house. So I was hoping that approaching the half, we would have a lead, but we don't, and I'm going to throw this one up into like triple coverage, which was a very, very dumb decision. I was kind of hoping we just got a good animation, but we could still get a safety, and we all know the run's coming, so we're going to send it. That ended up being the right move, and there's still plenty of time left. With 3 minutes remaining, we're trailing by 12, but we are going to get in on the 3rd and goal, so it's not over yet, but we are going to have to get a defensive stop. On 3rd and 11, my greatest fear is they're going to throw it, but they just went with the run, so it seems like we're going to hold them to 3, and their kicker's going to miss it. I have no idea why the camera angle went like that, but I'm not going to complain. We need to move the ball down the field, and look at that. 88 is wide open. I'm not sure how Cody Coleman just snuck by the entire defense, but we could score a touchdown here. If I'm smart, I'm going to take it, and that means I'll be relying on our defense to get a stop, but I'm okay with that as we already did. I'm just a little worried that they're going to get into field goal range, and what is our zone doing there? We clearly need to apply a little bit more pressure, and I sent 4 here. They're going to get the throw off. This should be an interception. No, what are you doing, Brown? You've got to be kidding me. How did that just happen? I'm honestly just speechless right now, and there is a glowing player on the field, so I don't really understand what to do. It looks like the backup quarterback's in as well, so it is all falling apart, but R1 has toasted the defense, and the throw wasn't far enough. This was our year to make a bowl game, and it all just fell apart at the last second. I've thrown it up to Young, and somehow he's going to break free. Okay, I was not expecting that to actually work. He ends up getting into the end zone, and that's the wildest 30 seconds I've ever had to finish a game. Chris Young definitely deserves that award, and honestly, I'm not even going to be upset when we go into USC and lose by 42. Getting a result like that led to every single one of these players' commitments, and now I have to step into this next matchup. Oregon State hasn't lost a game yet this season, so through sim, they definitely would have beat us, but I feel like I can give us a chance, and Chris Young just creates a ton of separation. I don't understand why he is this good. He's not really that fast, but I guess all you need is 92 speed to get it done, and I have no choice but to look his way every single time that we pass it. Now on the run, Mason's going to go all the way to the end zone, but there's a flag, so you already know this is coming back, and actually, it was offside, so never mind, we're going up 6-0. I was hoping that would last, but ever since that moment, we haven't scored, so I'm going to take our corner route here, and that is exactly why I can't stand rain games. I also just can't figure out the option, so that's been extremely frustrating as I keep getting held to 3, and I don't know why the camera's doing that. To end the 3rd quarter, we're going to get it back within 1 by making another field goal, and I'm honestly just thankful for how well our defense has played. We're a couple first downs away from being able to seal the win, and that's one of the ones we need, so I am happy with how this is going, and look, the option is actually going to work for this play. Leon Mason has enough space to get all the way in, and it feels very hit or miss, but I cannot complain. This is definitely going to be a close finish, and I don't know why they won't play that ball, but at the end of the day, they are on a time crunch, and how on earth did he just avoid that sack and make that play? It doesn't even make logical sense, but it all comes down to this, and of course they get in. If we're able to find the end zone, I'm going to go for 2 and try to end it, but they're sending good blitzes, so I have a bad feeling. It is now 3rd and 19, and I'm just going to try to thread the needle, but it's not going to be open. I hate that it's all come down to this, but it is 4th and 19. I'm going Young's way, and he drops it. I have no idea why he just tried to make a one-handed grab in the rain, but we needed to pull that one off, and since we didn't, we might be in trouble. There's no more easy games on our schedule, and I can only jump into one more as we're going to lose to UCLA, so we have to take down Arizona, who we did last year, and thank goodness history repeats itself. We only need 6 wins, so if we don't win either of these next 2, I'm going to jump into the last game, but we upset Arizona State, and I was not expecting that to happen, but I guess this Colorado game doesn't even matter now. Unfortunately, we still have no shot at winning our division, so getting blown out by Utah is irrelevant, and I'm just shocked at how well Clint Robinson played. For some reason, the option offense ended up working as we had 3 main contributors, and if we win the Arizona Bowl, we can start going after more than just 2 stars. This has to be the most important matchup of the dynasty, and I'm a bit surprised that here in the 3rd quarter, we're losing by 3. It's definitely made me aware that next year I'm going to have to switch out of running the option, but since our defense has done such a good job today, we're still in a position where we're not out of it. It's certainly a little bit confusing, but I've come out in the wishbone, and since everybody went to the right side of the field, I'm just just going to take off with Clint Robinson. I think he's fast enough to make it into the end zone, but Utah State would get on the board after that, so we're back to trailing by 3, and I'm just going to float this one up to Cody Coleman, who burns the defense. I definitely need to remember to switch the playbook for next season, but we need to finish this out so we can recruit bigger than 2 stars. And I'm just going to try to kill the clock, but Mark Redmond's going to fight his way in. That's definitely not ideal, but I feel like we can still hold them, and how on earth did he catch that? I don't understand this game in these ridiculous animations as they're breaking tackles as well, but I'm trying my best because we really need to pull this one off, and I'm hoping they don't get any lucky route bounces, but of course they do. Kimbrough is going to take it all the way down into the end zone, and why does this keep happening to us? I've never been more frustrated with a game, but their corners are pressed, and I don't understand why they would do that. If our quarterback didn't have a noodle arm, this would be all the way, but instead it's just going to go on to overtime. We've gotten them to a 3rd and 17, so if anything goes insanely crazy or wrong, you'd know that this game is rigged, but we get a sack, and evidently it is out of their kicker's range, so it is 4th and 21, and I don't know what their play calls have been, but can somebody just bring him down? I will gladly take the bowl game win. It took a lot more effort than I was hoping to give, but in the end, we can now go after any recruit we want. I finally got over that hump, and I've even gotten a contract extension, which feels great, but there's definitely going to have to be a period where we come back to earth because we're losing all of our best guys. I'm just glad that this is the final time I have to go after JUCOs and 60 overall 2 stars, so next season we should finally crack the top 100 with recruiting classes. After Clint Robinson graduates, I'm not sure what the quarterback of the future is going to look like, but at least for now, he is by far our best player, and I think it'll be best if I just let him air it out. Well, boys, look at that. We're not projected to finish last in our division for the first time ever, and South Dakota State's our first opponent, so if we lose this one, I would be very disappointed. This year feels like it should be a setback for our community college, but I guess it might not be, because not only are we getting results on the field, but off the field, I'm finding tons of guys I want to go after, like future quarterback Robin Lewis. I'm expecting us to lose in week 4 and week 5, but that's okay, though we are going to beat Cal, and now I'm conflicted because we have made our way into the top 25. Surely this team is not a high enough overall to win the Pac-12, but who knows, because if we can beat USC, anything could happen. Unfortunately, just because we had a good start doesn't mean that we're exactly good, and I'm glad we got a goal line stop there, but for some reason, I just haven't been able to move the ball with our senior quarterback. By the end of the 3rd quarter, we are trailing by 16, and I finally was able to bomb them to Cody Coleman for a big gain, but Clint Robinson has struggled a ton, and it almost feels like it's a little too late to pull off a massive comeback. We're going to need to get 2 2-point conversions, and to even get to that point, I have to get into the end zone first, which hasn't exactly been the easiest thing to do. We were able to though, so now I have to go for the 2, and the slant was open for a second, but I didn't hit it, and Robinson's not fast enough, so I think we all have a decent idea of how this is going to end, is we can't get the goal line stopped. At this point, it would take a miracle to win this game, and I just threw up a stupid 50-50 ball, confirming that we're going to lose to the Trojans, and we're going to have to bounce back against BYU the following week, which we do by 31. Our next 2 matchups are brutal though, but if we beat Oregon, I'll jump into the UCLA one, but that's just not going to happen. It just seems like we don't really have a shot at winning the Pac-12 since we lost to USC, and because of that, I'm going to have to sim our other rivalry game against the Bruins, where we also win by 8. Hang on. I really thought the season was over, but now it feels like we just got revived, and we lose to Arizona. Never mind, the year is done, but I did get all of these commits in that game that we just blew to the Wildcats, so I believe that going into season 7 next year, we're going to have a very nice setup. We've already clinched a bowl game, so these final few games really don't matter much. It is great that we keep winning though, but somehow UTEP beats us in the final week. That ending was just disappointing, especially because Clint Robinson was in the Heisman race with almost 4,000 passing yards, and I'm glad we went 8-4, but I'm not going to get over that L to the Miners. Clint ended up only getting 2 Heisman votes, and his final bowl game is going to be against last year's bowl opponent. It's such an exciting matchup. They gave it to us 2 years in a row, and I really don't care. We're going to destroy them, and now it's time to say goodbye to all of these program-changing 2-star players like Clint Robinson. I'm a little surprised we haven't had anybody drafted yet, but I have a feeling one of these guys will, as I was finally able to go after the better players. That caused our recruiting class ranking to jump all the way up to 16, and JUCO athlete Charles Kirkpatrick might actually be our starting quarterback. It's either him or Tyler Carpenter, and this guy has 56 speed, so I think we'll be starting a JUCO, and take a look at all of these training upgrades we had this year. I feel like it gives us a decent chance to win the conference as we're projected to finish 2nd, and it's always good when you start the year ranked in the top 25. Assuming that we go down to Hawaii and take care of business, we should be getting some solid momentum, but no result is guaranteed, so we have to go into each game playing our best. Since we're only an 84 overall this year, I really can't see us having that good of a season as we lose to BYU, but the expectations were very high, so I just have to hope we beat Cal, but we don't even do that. I hate the idea of just throwing away an entire season, but we don't have an older quarterback to start for us, so at the end of the day, day. Right now, I'm just focused on recruiting, and the most annoying thing is this Tyrone Raymond guy. I've been locked out for weeks because of our playing style, and that allowed all of these teams to catch up, but a few weeks later, we can finally go back in on him. I'd love to think that we won't lose to New Mexico, but that is also not a guarantee, as we do. So I want to be ticked off, but apparently that was appealing to all of these recruits that visited us. I really don't want us to continue this losing streak going down a slippery slope, so I believe I have to jump into this game. We're still filling up our small stadium, and to end the first half, I really need to get us on a board because it could get ugly if I'm not able to. I'm just going to throw this ball up, and although it was ruled out of bounds on the original catch, it looks like he is just able to get his foot in. The ref ended up taking my side, so now there's a much greater chance that we get in here. The only issue is I don't have any timeouts, so this must be completed, which it is, and since Charles Kirkpatrick has so much speed, I think I'm just going to take off with him for the 2-point conversion. The Bruins are one of our two rivals, making this a huge game, and ever since that moment where we had that massive pass play that was reversed, we've taken control of the game and extended our lead. The defense did not have a solid first half, but here in the second, they've done their job, and there's another stop. So in the end, we're going to break our 4-game losing streak by winning this one. I really just need to make sure Charles Kirkpatrick keeps developing, because if so, he's going to be a major problem by the time he's a senior. Even though we were one of the lower overalls in our division, I thought we would at least be able to make a bowl game this season, but evidently it just wasn't meant to be. After blowing two that we really shouldn't have fallen in, we ended up bouncing back to end the year, but we're also sitting near the bottom of the division, so I can't be happy about this. When you start to climb up in a dynasty, you never want to see it go back down, but at least there's somebody to blame, as Charles Kirkpatrick cannot throw the ball. The only reason I'm going to keep him as the starter is because he's our leading rusher. Two of our freshmen are transferring out for playing time at schools where they're definitely not going to get any better time. I am proud that we finally got a player into the NFL though, and you all are going to be very surprised by this, but I signed the #1 class. I didn't even realize I did it, but evidently there are 3 5-stars in here, and they're Rick Smith, David Wood, and Derek Alexander. All of that talent has led to me having 7 different athletes I can move around, and you might have to give it a few years, but we should be shooting for a national championship at some point in the future. Until then, we might just be a mid-table team as we're an 86 overall, but I can still have some expectations, and that involves winning all 4 of our first 5 games. It's not like any of them are very difficult, so I guess I shouldn't really be worried, but I've seen the game sim do weird things before, so you can never be too sure. As expected though, assuming we take down the Cougars at home, we're going to start the year 4-0, and everybody that I can is getting scheduled for this game against USC. Both of us are undefeated going into this, and we might have to score on every possession to keep up, but if that's what it takes, I'm willing to. There can most likely be no mistakes, and their man coverage is sticking to us like glue, so on 3rd and 3, I'm actually going to go with the option run to pick up the first down instead, and since they scored on their first drive, this is exactly how we needed to respond. Beating the #2 team in the country could be huge if we're able to pull it off, and throughout the first quarter and a half, I've hit every exact tight window that I've needed to, including that one. I don't know why, but we just can't seem to be stopped, and Charles Kirkpatrick is already better than I thought he was, as he's going to escape the pocket here and pick up the 3rd and 17 for us. I know he's a JUCO, so he did come into college with some experience already, but I was not expecting our offense to be this good. We have a 17-point lead on USC at the half, and ever since then, we haven't scored, as with 2.5 minutes remaining, we are only up by 3. Now, fortunately, we are going to hold them to a field goal, but if we want to take down the #2 team in the country, we're going to need one of those ourselves. I don't exactly love the idea of this play call, but I'm just going to throw this ball up to Brian Williams, and he's going to come down with it on the corner. So it was very risky, but it's going to pay off, as we are already in the range that we need to be in, and I might as well just not fumble the ball. You've got to be kidding me. I think we legitimately just got cheated out of a potential win against USC, and now they're trying to bomb us. Maybe we can get an interception back? No. There is nothing more frustrating than what just happened to us, but we're going to get a sack, and we should be getting the ball back, assuming they don't pick up this 3rd and long, which they don't. It's annoying to have to work the ball down the field again, but I'm going to have to throw it into some tight windows, and Williams comes away with it. Evidently, we have 2 good receivers that both have the same last name. After seeing how the last drive ended with a fumble, I'm willing to try to go all the way. I'm thankful that we're finally going to be able to take them down as we stare into the beach, into the background with the game winner, making us 5-0 as a community college. I am a little surprised we're only ranked 25th, but there's still plenty of time for us to keep going up, and hopefully my guys don't relax too much on our trip to Hawaii, because we still need to be able to beat them. It was certainly close, but what I'm more worried about now is winning the Pac-12. If we can beat UCLA, we'll be on pace to do so, and we're definitely not going to be the first team to get onto the board, but as long as we hold them to 3, we'll be okay. The inconsistency in the offense seems to be our biggest issue, but we beat our rivals last year, so I know it's possible, and I gotta get that ball out. Nearing the end of the first half, because of our defense, I feel like we're still in this game, and I'm hoping we can get into the end zone here with a halfback draw, but it's not going to work out for us. My worst fear is us getting held to 3 here, so hopefully we can get in. And I just noticed Charles' last name is Kilpatrick, not Kirkpatrick, so I'm not sure how I missed it, but he delivers as a dot. I just can't believe how low scoring of a game it is, but I'm going to need to be patient here. Thankfully, I avoided the sack, and there's somebody wide open in the end zone. The more rebuilds I do, the more it seems to me like defense wins championships. And even though we don't have a high overall team on paper, clearly something is meshing well together because we're about to take down number 24 UCLA. Holding them to 3 points at their own place is so embarrassing for them, but they just can't score. And it's hard to believe, but we could be contenders this year. The remaining 5 games on our schedule don't seem that tough, and we can still jump into one more if we're going to need it. And Utah's the only one that could still steal the Pac-12 from us. We have the tiebreaker over USC, so I just have to hope we beat Arizona State. And this is a weird top 2 teams, but right now it's us and Minnesota. If Deion Sanders' Buffaloes take us down, I would have been very disappointed. But now we have one final game to jump into, and if we win this, the conference is finally ours after a long 8 years. I don't want to say that I'm choking, but I have not been able to move the ball in the Utes at all. And so far, the defense has kept us in it, but they've put everybody in a box. I really don't feel like we're that good, but I guess at the end of the day, if we're able to keep winning, then it won't really matter. All we need is a touchdown to get it back within 6. And I just feel like we don't deserve to be in this game. I have not made any good reads, including this one. This should be a pick, but Smith comes down with it, and he's going to go down at the 1. So we might be getting bailed out, but we have a lead. If I was a Utah fan, I'd be sick right now. But you know what? It's kind of fair because we didn't show up for the first half, and now they've decided not to show up in the 3rd or 4th quarter, but this needs to be an interception, and Bolin comes down with it. I thought they were about to score a touchdown, but he got over to the ball, and as long as we can avoid a safety, we should be okay. Words cannot express how important this 3rd and 2 is, and I had the slant, but I just threw it up to Williams instead, who got put in a box. He did not break the press there at all. So because of my stupidity, Utah can go up on us no matter what, but if we hold them to 3, I'll feel a lot better about it, and that's what we're going to do. Even though they're on the 1-yard line, they're not going to be aggressive, and I'm glad they weren't because all we have to do is go down and get 3 to win the Pac-12. I'm not exactly sure how good our kicker is, but thank goodness we got that throw off. But I guess I shouldn't be too happy because the senior quarterback is in, the guy that I didn't start over the sophomore earlier on, and despite that, Tyler Carpenter comes in and makes a huge throw along with another one down to the 5. This guy was only 56 speed, so I didn't want to use him, but evidently he makes for a great backup as we're going to get the win. We've successfully secured our division, and I'm hoping that we can go on to win the Pac-12 Conference Championship, but there's still one final game left against Boise State, and thankfully we won in overtime. I would have never seen this coming this season, but we are the #1 team in the country, and I wanted to thank Charles Kilpatrick, but I just noticed that he has an injured sign. Apparently he's suffering with turf toe, so we'll see if he plays in these upcoming games, and I sure hope he does because he's improved way more than Tyler Carpenter. Cal is known for running the ball, so I'm going to be more prepared for that than anything else, and after getting a stop, I'm happy to say Kilpatrick is out there. It looks like the offensive line is trying to get him hurt on one of the first plays, but he's still delivering good throws. And off of the counter here, Justin Johnson is going to have a ton of space, but I don't think he's fast enough to be able to take this all the way to the house. It's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, that's what I get for recruiting a slower guy. And ever since we got into the end zone there, we have not gotten onto the board again. I just feel like I'm operating with a team that is not that good, and what an interception that was from Burke with one hand, which pretty much sums up how all of the offense has gone. They've put us in a box. I feel like it's remarkable that we got here in the first place, and I'm just trying to get into this gap here, but their quarterback took off and got in. We really need to get the offense going if we want a chance, and I'm hoping that halfback wheel gets open. The ball is going to be just underthrown though, and they're going to get another pick. Even if we lose this game, we'll still make the playoffs. But I really wanted to win a Pac-12 championship with Calabasas, and maybe this kickoff return that's out to the 50 could help us. I mean, we can't be that bad. We ended up going 12-0 during the regular season. So at some point we got to start scoring, but I'm afraid it's a little too late. I think the smartest thing I could do here is just take my check down, and I'm going to go for the lateral, but it didn't work. So that's unfortunate, but we should just get in here anyways. What we really need is defensive stops, and I almost had an interception there. We're still going to hold them. So maybe it's not over, and we still have a chance to come away with a win. I mean, we're going all the way down to the 10 here with Williams, and once we score a touchdown, all we're going to need is another 3 points. I just wish it didn't take us this long to get it going, and I'm afraid it might be a little too late. I should not have run commit there. They have a streak going, and I guess we're going to make the shoe diving tackle, but unfortunately for us, it's probably already over. I know they're going to run it though, so at least we can run commit a bit, and now that it's 3rd and goal, they're going to go with another draw where we're going to hold them to 3. I know we don't really have much time left, but we have a chance, and I really don't see anything open here. They're dropping everybody back in the coverage. He's going to trip me up. I'm going down. So the clock is running. It took way too long to hike this ball, and we are going to get a huge gain here to Whitaker down to the 40, but getting tripped up there just felt like the end of the world, and I'm going to have to roll out and just send it deep where we're hopefully going to come away with it, but it's going to be an interception, and we're going to lose the game. Hopefully this frustrates us going into the playoffs, because if we're going to win it all, we need to play much better. If we're able to take down Pitt in the semifinals, the national championship would be against USC, but we have to get there in the first place. And on our first drive of the game, Charles Charles Kilpatrick has been incredible. Maybe it's because he was recovering from injury last week, but right now he feels like a completely different player, calm and collected, which is great because even on 4th and 4, I feel comfortable going for it, and he's just going to use his legs to get an additional 20 yards. Pitt is only an 80 overall, so I'm still not quite sure how they made it this far anyway, but by halftime, we're already going to have 35 points assuming we get in, and it's getting bad. As long as we manage the clock well in the second half, it's pretty much over, but I guess I was wrong about that because with 3.5 minutes remaining, we're only up by 7. Thankfully, they dropped it, and I don't know why they're punting it, but I'm not going to complain because I thought the game was already done, and in fact, it wasn't because the offense has been extremely stagnant as we're going to fumble the ball here. Dunbar is going to pick it up, and I'm just thankful he didn't take it back for 6 because he was already rolled down on the ground. It's hard to believe that we could actually choke here, but we're going to force the ball out there, but I really don't care because that was a massive loss of yards for them as they're all the way back to about the 20, and surely they're not going to get into the end zone at this point. I feel like we have done just enough. They're going to get a nice check down for 7, but it's still 4th and goal from the 10, so we just need to lock up, and there's no way that gets in. It was certainly close, but as long as we don't take a safety, this game is over, and we're going to be going up against USC in the national championship. We're the only team that's been able to beat the Trojans, and if I'm remembering right, this one had a very wild finish where we ended up winning with a field goal. It's weird to say, but a community college has made it all the way, and we're getting the first possession in our first ever national championship game where this could be a kickoff return. Please give us a good start. Carlson is just going to be fast enough to outpace 59. I think this is going to go all the way on the first play, and there's no way you could have predicted a better start to this game. Evidently, USC is not too happy about it as they moved it down the field very quick, but you know what? I'm going to trust our defense, and eventually we will get a stop. I'm more worried about how the game's going to go on the offensive side of the ball, and I don't understand how they screamed in so fast there, but I can't do anything about it. They forced so many sacks on us already, but we've both been able to get defensive stops, and I'm going to find Rick Smith for a huge play, and honestly, there haven't been too many issues with getting stops. I'm going to be able to bomb up this one to Williams, who had just enough space on 45, and I'm looking his direction on almost every play because besides him, everyone's locked up in man coverage. I'm just going to sling this to the end zone anyway, and it's going to work. I was not expecting that to actually go our way, but you know what? If that's what it takes to beat USC, you're not going to hear me complaining about it. If we could just get some pressure and we'd be fine, and I feel like they're getting cheated right now. If that means I can win a national championship with a community college, I'm not going to mind, and John Burns just created so much separation. We had a hot start against them when we hosted them earlier in the year, and it looks like we're about to be off to another one. Our tight end's going to get the route bounce into the end zone, so we're up 28-7, and eventually we knew they were going to get in again, but that's okay. As long as we can do the opposite of what we did against Pitt and hold on to our lead. But I'm not going to lie, I am starting to get a little bit worried as their quarterback's going to take off here, and he's making me nervous to end the half because they could still get into the end zone and make it within 7 with wild throws like that. I just don't get how that's a touchdown. But this game is set to be much higher scoring than the matchup we had in the regular season, and our kick returner is pretty solid. He's made it so we should be able to get a field goal before the half, but maybe not because for some reason nobody decided to block number 59 on that play. I don't understand the AI in this game. I'm just going to try to take the out route. It's going to turn into an interception, and yes, you can probably say that the choke has pretty much begun, but they're going to miss the field goal. That is actually huge for us because even though they began the third quarter with the game-tying touchdown, it is 28-all, so we are not out of it. We are still in a tie game, and I might be able to get the first down with Kilpatrick. The problem we're running into is every time they run man coverage, it's just hard to score on them, but whenever it's a zone, we take advantage of it, and on 3rd and 5 here, we're going to give up the big pass. I don't understand what our corners were doing, but I would love for this to be the final possession, and with chew clock turned on, there's a decent chance that it might end up being that. We're going to have to pick up this 3rd and 3 though, and the slant to Smith is wide open down to the 40, putting the pressure on USC to start calling timeouts if they ever want to see the ball again. Of course, the computer's pretty dumb, so it seems like they're not going to do that at all, but you won't see me complaining because this has been an extremely long journey. Then I made my biggest mistake yet. Oh my gosh, I just screwed it up. I just did chew clock and it ran it out. I cannot believe I forgot to turn chew clock off there. We were just going to take the field goal to win the game, but now we're in overtime and literally anything can happen. I am so frustrated with myself right now, but at least we scored on our first possession. And after a few abysmal plays, it's 4th and 7, so we could get the stop here if we're able to make the tackle. We get it. And Calabasas has won a national championship. It's safe to say we more than earned that win. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this rebuild, but I've posted a lot of them, so if you want to watch another, you can do that right here.